The Curonian Spit National Park is a vast field for Mother Nature's experiments, daily creating new landscapes that captivate the hearts of millions. Its expanses open our eyes to an incredibly diverse spectacle unfolding under an enchanting dawn. A place where time slows down as the heart overflows with an admiration that takes us into an endless world of magic. Landscapes of the Curonian Spit. The Curonian Spit itself is a huge sandbar. Its total length is 98 kilometers, with the national park occupying the southern half. The structure of the landscape is comprised of distinct elements that stretch along the spit, from the sea on one side to the lagoon on the other. The beach, protective wall and lower dunes, the plain between dune lines, a high dune ridge, and the shore of the Curonian lagoon. The combination of these landscape elements is not the same throughout the spit and varies depending on the region. In total, there are 5 distinguishable microregions on the spit. The first one starts at the base of the spit and extends 10 kilometers. The central section of the relief is occupied by the interdune plain, which stretches almost the entire width of the spit. Unstable peat deposits mark the locations of ancient straits and form depressions in the relief. These plains are lowlands because the groundwater is close to the surface. The lowlands are covered with alder forests with developed undergrowth and a grassy cover. Here, in the alder forest, one of the largest populations of Lunaria in the region is coming alive. Lunaria flowers are lavender and pinkish in color, blending into a blooming lilac covering. And in the evening, its pleasant aroma only intensifies. Moist, rich soils are favorable for Lunaria. Look at how beautiful it is in any weather. Sometimes nature can produce a surprise. Here, on one section of the plain, a unique old-growth forest of pine and spruce has been preserved. This section of the forest has never been cut down, and the location has never been threatened by moving dunes. In addition to centuries-old pines and spruces, there are individual groups of plants that come from different parts of the world. The giant Thuja plicata and European and Japanese larches. And here is a nurse, a dung beetle. It not only cleanses the soil of impurities, but also actively fertilizes it. In this forest, individual specimens of coniferous trees reach 200 years of age, like this giant thuja. The beach, composed of light quartz sands, stretches along the entire spit. In some places, the sand is replaced by extended areas of pebbles and boulders. This is caused by a lack of sand. In various places, the foredune, which forms a protective rampart, is completely eroded and the vertical face of the plain is revealed. The second landscape microregion is the narrowest part of the spit, with a width of up to 400 meters and a length of only 5 kilometers. The width of the beach here varies greatly and is often hidden under the sea waves. The foredune has a high slope facing the sea, constantly washed away by winter storms, and its peaks are covered with grassy vegetation. On the leeward slope, thickets of barberry and buckthorn help maintain the stability of the protective rampart. One of the strongest stabilizers of the sand is lathyrus. In the dry and sun-warmed sand, small funnels can be seen. These hunting pits are built by ant lion larvae. The predatory larvae feed on insects that fall to the bottom of the pits. A flowering apple tree is of interest to many insects. And this is what a lichen looks like. It does not use an apple tree as a source of nutrition, but uses it as a support. In the low plains near the lagoon, gray herons can be found in the black alder forest. Here is a large nesting colony. In the spring, it seems to come to life, and the herons occupy their nests built in tall trees. A single tree usually contains several nests. Birds use them over several years and fix them up annually. And for good reason. After all, they are preparing to raise offspring in them. Chicks hatch completely helpless, but sighted. They are very gluttonous and require a lot of food, which the adults make great efforts to find in the waters of the bay. The chicks grow quickly and begin to learn how to use their wings. But sometimes, even unhatched chicks face danger. Cunning foxes don't miss such opportunities. In the meantime, the forests are gradually replaced by a wide belt of reeds along the bay, protecting the shore from erosion and preserving the coastline that serves as a habitat for waterfowl. The thick belt of reeds is nearly unbroken, but has sparse open areas with a narrow, sandy beach. Extending more than 15 kilometers, and complex in terms of internal structure, the third landscape microregion has a wide sea beach, stable foredunes, a lowland plain, and a high dune ridge along the bay with stretches of narrow sandy beach. In this area, the plain and the dune ridge are approximately the same width. A large dune ridge takes over for the flat plain. The extended monolithic swell of the Latin Val dunes begins with gray dunes on a gentle windward slope. Each dune is separate plot, covered with sand-loving grasses. The gray dunes on the horizon give way to the tall domes of the white dunes. A thick layer of drifting sands continues windward towards the bay along the long, gentle western slopes, and pours leeward into the bay along the short and steep slopes of the eastern ridge. The pine forest looks brilliant all year round. The lower branches die off, and the upper ones form a crocheted crown that lets the sun rays through. On the forest floor, under the deadwood, a slow worm is hiding. It looks like a snake, but it is not a snake at all. It is a legless lizard. It is very slow and unable to catch fast-moving prey. It is not surprising that under the forest canopy, a thick green cover of moss and lichen thrives. Among the sparse freestanding young pines, you can find gray hairgrass, field wormwood, and seaside violet. Violets are considered the most elegant plant on the sands. They are able to endure the extreme conditions of life there, despite their delicate flowers that form bouquets or stick out straight from the sand on the growing dunes. Field wormwood lives nearby on the gray dunes, supported by other plants in arid places. A common natrix or water snake belongs to the group of non-venomous snakes. The low plain, protected from the west and east by barrier dunes, is the most stable, calm part of the spit, completely covered with forests. In pines, female and male cones are distinguished. In spring, male cones are covered with a huge amount of pollen, which is picked up by the wind and collected on the surface of lakes, the lagoon, and the sea. In coniferous and mixed forests, the most common tree is the Scotch or Baltic pine. Other pines present are the black pine and the Banks pine, the cones of which remain on the tree for several years and have an unusual hooked shape. The lagoon terrace is almost completely blocked by the sands of the open dunes, and the steep leeward slope of the white dunes crumble right into the bay. Also on display here is sea mustard in full bloom, and eryngium, which bumblebees love so much. From the shore of the lagoon, you can see a clever otter out in the water. The primary part of its diet consists of freshwater fish. On the other side of the plain, there's the beach going down to the sea, as in the other microregions. The seaside beach here is wider than in previous ones and has a stable foredune, which are constantly replenished with new sands. With sufficient sand supply to the beach, a stable foredune is supplemented with an aeolian cushion and a leaning foredune. Gradually, the slope is covered with sand-loving grasses. Marram grass and lime grass present a living trap for sand. The fourth landscape microregion is the widest part of the spit. Its width reaches 3 kilometers, 800 meters, and its length is 5 kilometers. The plain starts with a lowland with an alder forest just behind the foredune that transitions to a pine and mixed forest. Here you can find trees that are more than 100 years old. These dunes are called the Rossitan Dunes and are located on a plain which, unlike most others, stretches right along the coast of the bay. The single dome-shaped dunes called Krutaya and Chornaya are completely covered with mountain and common pines planted by people. Because of the high fire hazard of mountain pine, it is gradually being replaced by the common pine. This forestry practice is called forest reconstruction. Black alder has an important water-regulating function. Alder forests occupy areas where groundwater is close to the surface, where there are various types of ferns. The plain by the lagoon is occupied by a tall grassy meadow. The clay soil in this location has decisive influence on the covering vegetation. Plants decorated with dew at dawn, nature seems to keep its riches hidden from sight. But a little later, as if changing its mind, they are revealed to us. Among the many herbs and flowers, 6 species of the orchid family grow on the spit, 3 of which are included in the Red Book of Russia. One of these species is the green-winged orchid. The population here is one of the largest in Russia and the largest in terms of variety of color. The meadow is adjacent to the beach of the lagoon, where driftwood and freshwater shells are often washed ashore. Seeing a cautious roe deer is remarkable luck. A graceful crane, on the contrary, is a frequent visitor because the meadow is its favorite place for hunting. On the plain, there are shallow depressions where swamps and lakes are formed. The largest of them have their own names: Emerald, Rusty, Beaver, and Seagull. This is the largest lake on the spit. Its northern and northwestern shores are surrounded by pine and black alder forests. The southern shore is low and swampy and smoothly gives way to a wetland meadow. Some permanent inhabitants of the lakes, frogs. After hibernation, they are very lethargic, but after a couple of days, they begin their mating concerts. While singing, 2 resonant chambers are formed at the corners of the mouth, amplifying the sound. Barn swallows fly over the surface of the lake. They feel uncomfortable on the ground because of their small legs, so they prefer to perch on reeds. A beach with a constant spray of sand mixed with salt is a difficult place for plant life. The stable foredunes here are similar to the previous section of the spit. The back slope of the foredune is gentle, and on it you can find bushes of willow, barberry, and wild rose. The most complex microregion in terms of composition is the 5th, which is 14 kilometers long. Its structure is similar to the 3rd microregion, and all the longitudinal elements of the landscape are fully developed. Additionally, there is a unique Aeolian lake located on the lagoon plain. Lake Swan is a pearl in the landscape of the Curonian Spit. It is located on the plain and separated from the Curonian lagoon by a thin strip of sand. It is the only wind-formed lake on the entire southeastern coast of the Baltic. In its reed frame, surrounded by a strip of black alder, the lake attracts waterfowl. In springtime, pairs of mute swans unite to occupy and defend their territory. Here they build nests and produce offspring. Massive nests, up to 1.5 meters in diameter, are built in thickets from the stems of last year's reeds and other plants. The entire lowland of the Spit is covered with mixed forests with artificially planted common and mountain pines. Under the high crowns, in a soft penumbra, like a picturesque symphony of aromas and flowers, all the richness of the flora of the Spit is hidden. The plain is smoothly replaced by the Pilkopen Dunes, the longest and most expressive in terms of their striking landscapes. This dune group is divided into southern and northern sections. Eagles soaring over the dunes are one of the most exciting sights in the national park. And in summer, groups of juvenile great cormorants gather on tall trees near the bay. The locations of such gatherings are not permanent. They last from 1 to 5 years, which nevertheless leads to the death of trees. that are extensively covered with bird excrement. After a few years, the cormorants move to fresh places, leaving behind dead white tree trunks. Along the coast of the lagoon, you can also observe the usual inhabitants of these places, gray herons. Here they are catching fish. The moving dunes of the southern part of the Pilkopen group were anchored by pine plantations as early as the end of the 19th century. On the border of two types of dunes, white, continuing their march towards the lagoon, and green, covered with dense forest, is the most recognizable place on the Curonian spit, the Orekhovaya dune. The highest point of this dune is 62 meters. It is named the Effa height in honor of the dune inspector Franz Effa, whose work was devoted to the study and anchoring of the shifting sands. The northern section of the Pilkopen dunes begins at the low green slopes of the ridge, and on the leeward slope gradually gives way to gray dunes covered with grasses and single young pines. In some areas, the beach of the bay has a low ridge, revealing consecutive layers of black magnetite, purple garnet, and white quartz sands as if they were stacked. Frozen sandy waves of multicolored minerals, pink almandines, black magnetites, and of course, the most common white quartz form the sands of the Curonian spit. And again, dunes are replaced by others. So the low gray ones hand over the reins of power to the mobile white dunes, among which the red dune and the deer dune stand out. The eastern slope of these dunes descends to the lagoon plain and ends with Cape Vostochny. And on the other side, the seaside beach, white quartz sand serves as a natural protection for the coast. Stable foredunes sometimes have their slopes partly washed out after storms, but they will slowly recover in the spring and summer. To help in this sand traps, cages made of natural materials are set up on the slope, and later, sand-loving grasses are fixed on the now unmoving sand. With every step on the Curonian spit, we plunge into a world of majestic vistas, where the landscape, animals, and plants merge into a united whole, becoming part of a symphony that reveals its story to us in the rhythm of the wind.